Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the August 15th, 2017 meeting of the School Systems Operations Committee. We are going to start, got a pretty full agenda today. Let me just pull it up. We're going to start with discussion of the 2017 Comprehensive Maintenance Plan. Keith, who's going to do that? Might be you, Keith. It's whoever you want.
I will.
Ta-da!
What are you doing back there?
Yeah, he was like seriously looking for that grand entrance.
Hello.
Okay, thanks, Blaine. You should get that to her.
All right, ready? Okay. Blaine Lipsky, Director of Facility Maintenance and Operations for City Schools. First, I'd like to welcome everyone and congratulate the Commissioner on your new appointment. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Each year, we're required to present a CMP, Comprehensive Maintenance Plan. This is 27. I'll give you a short overview as soon as I figure out how to get this to work. Can't work it. Need a little technical assistance here. There we go. Here we go. User error. So here we are with the background, organizational structure, budget, staffing, system and procedure, facilities. This is what our program makes up. It's approximately 50 to 60 pages. This is the short version. The background serves as the district's maintenance plan for city schools portfolio facilities. We also address requirements established in the MOU between city schools, Baltimore City, MSDE, and Stadium Authority for the 21st Century Building Plan. It also provides an update to the original 5-year CMP approved by the Baltimore City School Commissioners and the Interagency Committee on Public School Construction back in 2014. Our organizational staffing for this year budget, we reclassified 6 new positions from the EBS graph positions where we had previously 14 EBSs. We reclassed the EBSs to be lead techs to where they're actually working now in the field versus just a mid-level management group of reporting issues at the schools, from the schools to our repair shops. EBS, Educational Business Supervisors.
Could you just, in layperson's terms, talk about the significance of this change and why you guys did it and what will happen as a result of it?
Okay. One of the things we saw in the very beginning, the EBS positions were established to oversee the schools with the custodial structure when we oversaw the custodials and had them under our budget. Under Dr. Alonso, when they put more funding and the custodians out to the schools, we lost a considerable amount of oversight, and the EBS has still remained in our hierarchy. And basically, when the schools saw the custodial staff, our work shifted to where we would be the liaison between repairs and very minimal school oversight with custodial work, other than to ensure that there was cleanliness. We acted as a liaison, but our guys were doing more reporting of repairs and maintenance to the repair shops when we already had other management layers in place to address that. So we looked at it over the years and realized that if we had a working EBS lead tech rather than just a managerial person there, we would be able to get more work at the school directly versus having a layer report, then have it assigned. This way the lead tech goes out, identifies it, and can work it himself to repair immediately or assign it to a tech within his region to address it later on.
So it's somebody actually doing something rather than telling somebody else
Exactly.
about the fact that
Yes.
something needs
It's
to
more
be done.
hands-on, yes.
Okay. Makes
Yes.
sense.
And it was,
Change in the number, was it, were there 6 EBSs before, and now there's 6 lead technicians, or was
No.
there some change in numbers too?
there were some change in numbers. There was originally 14. We reclassified 4 positions to other positions, and we interviewed for 6 lead techs. So technically, we had 6 and 4. We lost 4 in the reduction. But they were able to come back. They had the opportunity to come back to interview for other positions.
If I could add, we essentially took out one layer of supervision because the area facility managers could really perform the same duties as the EBSs. But we wanted to get more individuals who were performing repair work in the schools, and that's what the lead techs do.
Okay. The next position, next slide, is basically back in 2014 when the board members approved our financial plan. We went to finance and they saw that we needed, based on a study, a $27 million investment over 9 years. We've been getting our $3 million from the finance department each year. So they continue to provide us funding for the preventive maintenance of operations.
So the money that's coming as a result of the MOU is what's helping to close this gap over time?
The money from the MOU is supposed to increase the amount of money that the Facility Maintenance and Operations Division, their budget had sunk to a low of $15.5 million, and the desire was to increase that to $42 million over 9 years.
So we're going to see it increase. It may not get all the way to 42 million, but it's definitely on the upswing as a result of this money.
Exactly.
You've got a question here,
Yeah,
Commissioner Frank?
I didn't follow that. So you said something about a recommendation of a level of funding at 27. You said something about 3 million. I don't have any background. So, and then Keith just said 42. So what was the recommendation, and what are the sources of funds that are now getting us to whatever number we're at right now?
The board back in 2014 agreed to a $3 million a year allocation for our preventive maintenance program. So over 9 years, that's $27 million. And with the our original budget back in 2014 was 15.8 million, plus the 27 comes to $42 million.
Over 9 years?
Yes.
And what was the finding, that there needed to be a certain?
Well, there was a finding that we needed more than 3 million, but 3 million was the acceptable allocation at the time for 9 years.
And what are examples of preventive maintenance?
Chiller breakdown, and ensuring the chillers work, changing filters, changing belts, rooftop units, fire alarms, buzzer repairs, with ensuring that the buzzards in school operations.
There's a slide
There's a slide we'll show you what
that's in
comes
here a
there.
little further.
We'll address that. Are we finished with the budget, so?
Wait till we get.
Okay.
Commissioner Bondima?
I have a question as well. This listening to the information of the questions that the board chair has asked and Commissioner Frank has asked, what you have on here is not for me, for someone who doesn't have all the background information. Do you have what you just talked about somewhere we can see the numbers that you're talking about, the 4 million, the 42 million that we just talked about? Is there an explanation where we can see what you're talking about? Is it somewhere you can just send it me to wherever it's located?
That's a good idea. I
Yeah.
think for a commissioner that hasn't followed this for the last 4 years, we can go back into some of those. It was part of the original MOU 21st century presentation. I know we've seen slides, so if you could, AJ, if you could get that from,
Yes.
Just something
just
that,
give you the context.
a brief
Yep.
information about what
Yeah.
we just talked about, because at this point right here,
It's hard to
if
know.
as a layman listening out
Sure.
there,
This is just
I'm
an
not
overview.
sure if anybody understood what you were just saying, and I'm sure it's documented somewhere.
Fair enough.
I'd just like to get a brief
Fair
look
enough.
at what you're saying, so I can be clear instead of shaking my head like,
Yeah.
I know I don't understand what you're saying.
The actual CMP, which is a document of 56 to 60 pages,
Okay.
has all the background information left in there, so people such as that are new to positions can review the history, so it has more detail. We can provide that to you.
Is it in the library?
Yes.
Okay, so I can go in there myself
Mhm.
and look at it, okay.
Well, we can provide a hard copy to AJ if you want, or electronic.
You don't have to
copy.
go,
Okay,
if you
thank you.
have it online somewhere,
Yes.
I can just review it,
Okay.
that's all, I don't need to go through.
If you have any questions, Keith Robbins or myself are available.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, just so, can you at least send me the link so I don't have to hunt it down?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
good,
Okay.
thank you.
It's actually a useful document when you have a lot of time to read. It's a useful document because you really do get a sense of what more we're trying to do as a result, to up our game on preventive maintenance. So that's a better idea to get.
And it brings you up to date
Brings you
from
up to
then
date.
to today,
Yep.
right?
Gives you all the
Okay,
context.
okay, good, thank you.
Okay. Go to the next slide. One of the new things this year, which is a highlight, we started our School Dude, which is which is our computerized maintenance management system. Previously, we worked off of ACT, which was old and not supported anymore, so we invested with a cooperative partnership with MSA to pay for the first 2 years, and we gradually take over the full payment of School Dude. This captures our school deficiencies and repairs that are needed throughout the district, and our repair shop and other groups are using School Dude to capture all the information of the major facility systems. Another factor in the CMP is key performance indicators, which are called KPIs. They have been implemented and tracked to improve personnel performance. Sample KPIs and targets include, but are not limited to, total number of completed emergency and repair orders. We're going to try this year to decrease that by 50%. Percentage of actual preventive maintenance labor hours scheduled. We're going to try to capture all of our actual preventive maintenance labor hours this year in School Dude. Total number of work orders completed, we're going to increase that to 95% rather than having them deferred or not completed at all. Average work orders completed each day, we're going to increase by 30%.
So can we assume that when so this is useful to know what we're measuring, can we assume that when we come back next year and we're getting the update on the CMP, that we can take a look at the KPIs and that you'll
Yes.
give us what the baseline was?
Yes,
Because without knowing the baseline,
yes.
we don't really need that right now, but when we look at you'll give that?
Right. Yeah, one of the good things is that we'll be using School Dude for this full fiscal year, so we'll capture everything versus having two systems. And we won't lose any data. Preventive maintenance budget. Commissioner Frank, this is possibly what you could look for. Will afford the district to continue to support its existing PM and inspection program. Our inspection program and work orders for preventive maintenance includes bleachers, lighting, conveyance, which is elevators, partitions, walls, flooring, roofing, plumbing, fire protection, and HVAC. Now, you'll see HVAC is a higher number, but that makes up a lot of items in the mechanical systems. You have chillers, boilers, rooftop units, univents, split units, and it basically provides the heating and cooling and ventilation throughout the schools. Preventive maintenance FTEs, another thing. What we planned for preventive maintenance, this year we plan on having 5 people hired to do actual preventive maintenance to reduce the outsourcing of labor. Number of performing FTEs, preventive maintenance, right now we have 3, but we want to get to 5. Percentage of FTEs performing preventive maintenance, plan versus actual. We want to try to get our plan to get actually 5 performing the personnel preventive maintenance work.
Are these different than the lead technicians?
Yes.
Okay.
These will be identified to specifically do the filter changes. They'll be working afternoon, like from 12 to 8 or 2 to 10, primarily because the classrooms are empty and a lot of the work needs to get inside the classroom, so we're not disrupting the classroom activities during the day, so we're planning on having an afternoon, evening shift.
Commissioner Frank?
This all sounds great in terms of process improvement, in terms of, customer service. Our customers are, of course, parents and teachers, but in the building, principals themselves are your customers. I'm curious, what do you think the principals or the people within the schools that you work, how do you think they would rate the responsiveness of your team? And have you ever sort of surveyed the 180 leaders of our schools in terms to get a sense of what they think are the priorities and how they view the responsiveness of your team in responding to these kinds of
I believe the school
capital
district,
requests?
I believe the school district has an overall environmental survey, that there is a little section that's tied to that. And actually, you get some responses, then you don't get any responses. The ones are very appreciative. We haven't done exactly a facility one. We did that about 6 years ago, and the responses were less than 50%, I believe. We haven't done anything recently, but we can look into that. The people are grateful that we're there to address their concerns. Overall, though, to be honest, I would personally like to have a person in every school, but we don't have that capability based on funding and staffing. We try to reach all the schools in a timely manner. Some are more appreciative than others, and others understand the capability of the staff based on the budget. So to answer your question, no, we haven't done a survey recently. We can look into that. Two, you'll get mixed emotions because there's a personality conflicts between what they're actually doing and what they want us to perform. If you have one, I'll give you an example. We'll come in to paint one room, they want the rest of the rooms painted of their school. We tell them no, they get disappointed in us. So, I mean, you gotta look, most are grateful that we're there and happy that we're doing the work and very responsive. Others, they'll have some displeasure because we're not doing enough in their schools.
It sounds like you're absolutely committed to improving responsiveness, improving performance.
We
And
are.
I would just ask you to consider, if not this year and the next couple of years, to ask your customers to rate your performance, even potentially after you go out. Could be an email that says, how did we do? Lots of private
Sure.
companies do that after you have a conversation on the phone. Could you stay on the line and answer a survey? Just to, at some point, inform this improvement that you're committed to doing by the customers themselves.
We can certainly do that. We will certainly do that.
We could automate an email going out. Because the budgets, we wouldn't want to add a whole new survey instrument. That has a lot of budget implications. But you could certainly, with the customer service orientation that we've been talking about, I'm sure our tech friends, where are they? I think our tech buddies could probably help us figure that out.
We can also probably, once we get
That's
this school dude module enacted to where the principals can engage from their office, we can talk to school dude about when the work order is closed, to shoot out an email survey. We can work with
That's what we're
them.
talking about.
We have the personnel that can actually be a little more creative, so we'll
Seems
look
like
into
it
that.
feed into a continuous
Yep.
loop of improvement.
Yes.
Commissioner Bondima?
You have an opportunity coming up that, and you ought to look at the CEO's schedule, because the CEO will be presenting to all of the principals, and you might want to ask if it could be mentioned or presented that what you're doing and the opportunity your office should take as to putting in some type of technology that's going to be automatic online where they can go to and write comments about the work that has been done. That'll always be there.
Right.
And they can do that. And this is the opportunity, and I think it's next week, next week,
24th.
the 24th, that they're going to have a 2-day workshop for all the principals, and that would be perfect to put that information in, so they will know that they can make comments
Okay.
online.
We'll discuss
It's
that
real
with
easy.
her staff to see if it plays in with the time frame that we have. But
Or
it's a good
just
idea.
have a handout
Yep, we can do that.
submitted.
Okay.
Just some suggestions for us
Yeah,
here.
Okay.
It's real easy to do that, to put
Sure.
it online where they can make comments, a short, email.
Okay.
And that will give you a general idea how things are going.
Great. Good idea. One of the few things that we also mentioned is the 21st Century Schools. We're very excited to take occupancy. We've actually in the schools now, Frederick and Fort Worthington. And then we have 2 schools. That's Fort Worthington right now. That's on Huffman Street. And then we're going to have Frederick that's being occupied now. So we're excited to have those 2. The staff's in the school, community space is being shared and starting to move in. We're trying to get the contractors out and get more use of the space, but we're going to be ready for opening for
So
these two
Mignon is
schools.
sitting there smiling. She's like, it's mine now, and it's about to be yours.
Right, exactly. Well, we got ours. And then in December, we have John Eager Howard.
That'll be great.
That's going to be opening. And then we also have Lyndhurst that'll be opening. And we're proud to have 4 new schools this year and be occupied. And
All the more reason these systems you're putting in place now are great. All the more
Yep.
reason to make sure that we're getting good feedback on how they're working, because the last thing we need is for somebody to be up in arms 6 months from now that something's gone awry with something at Lyndhurst or Frederick and blah blah blah. We want to make sure that customer responsiveness we're dry running it now, so that
Yep.
when we get these new buildings turned over to us, we're like totally set.
And I think our 21st Century team has been very aggressive. I wouldn't say aggressive, but they've been very point on with the community and resolved any issues and conflicts if prior. And now it's our turn as a facility operator to manage the school to ensure that it's properly maintained.
So Commissioner Bondima has a final
Just
question?
A quick question. When you open in December, Lyndhurst and Johnny Good Howard, the students are housed somewhere else, right?
Correct.
And they will move in, you have a time span. How long does it take to move them? Because school is in session, so how long does it take to get them from one space to the next space?
Funny you should ask that, because the 21st Century team, I think let's use
Oh,
that,
is it?
no, that's a great question, because let's use that as a segue. So any more questions for Blaine? So thanks. It's really good to see, we look forward to looking more deeply into the full CMP, but nice to see the process improvements that add in efficiencies as the budget's been tight.
I see,
It's great.
I can see you were moving up when I asked the question.
No, we're good. So let's use that as a segue for the 21st Century team. All right, ladies, we're almost there. She drags herself
Delivering
to
on the
table.
promise. First 2 out the box. So good to see everybody this morning, and that is a great segue. The first thing I want to say, though, is that transitioning from the existing construction process and design of construction process into real operations is a significant activity. Keith and Lynette's staff, Blaine, have been, we could not do what we're doing to transition those schools without them really bending over backwards to include these new schools that they're going to receive on top of all of the other work that they're doing. It's just a monumental to transition the work that's being done from one phase to another. And of course, because they're going to take ownership, they have an interest. But it's been critical that their inspections and that their reviews and that putting the systems into their new system, integrated with our team, we've all really worked as one. So I really appreciate Keith and Lynette and Blaine and the staff. They've helped us tremendously to do our job. The answer to your question, I'll let Jessica talk a little bit about what the plan is for moving the kids from John Eager Howard and Lyndhurst, where they are currently in swing space, and the plan for moving into active operation at Christmas time, over the Christmas holiday.
So the transition from the swing space into the new buildings will actually start prior to December. As the construction is wrapping up, we'll have all of the furniture delivered to the schools. The plan is to put the new technology and the academic materials into the schools over winter break. Academics has asked for and received a waiver for 2 days so that after break, the teachers come back and have 2 days in the building to set up and be ready for students to return. So it is a compressed timeline, and we're aware of it, and we're working through all of the details and making sure that we're streamlining the logistics as much as possible to make sure that we meet those targets.
When you say requested a 2-day waiver, you mean on the union contract?
No, from the state, to a waiver to change the calendar for the school, for those
For
two
those two
specific
schools.
schools.
Oh, so they have,
So they start on the 4th of January.
as
versus
opposed to the
second.
second. Oh, I didn't realize we were obligated to start school on a certain day.
It's the number of days.
It's the number of days, that's the waiver. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We don't need to go into that right now, okay.
So the schools will be outfitted, John Eager Howard will be outfitted early, first 2 weeks in December. Dorothy I. Height, thank you for the correction. And Lyndhurst, and Lyndhurst will, the last 2 weeks in November, their furniture will go in the building. And then the schools will actually move in from West Baltimore and West Side during the week of Christmas break.
That's a good catch.
So we'll
I
be
think on these
working the day
official,
after Christmas till the day before.
I think on these official presentations, even the last one that Blaine just gave, we should change the name of that school.
That's right, Dorothy I. Height.
It's a good catch. We should start to get it right. It's going to take a
So
minute.
I should just know that the city council just passed
Oh.
changing the building name
All right.
this week, so
right.
that is a new change for
So
us.
now it's new
All right,
changes.
so you get a pass today. Great.
That's
That's
right.
exciting.
So we're going to quickly go through things that you know. I mean, you know about the program opening and the ribbon cutting, the status of
So
schools.
who's got the clicker? Somebody should,
Beg your pardon?
oh, okay. I thought we were, there you go.
Okay.
Sorry.
So the 23rd, that's next Wednesday, the outline for the program format was sent out yesterday, and we're working on the speaker notes and scripts, and lots of excitement. We have a couple of press activities going on this week. The press may actually tour the school either this week or before the event on Wednesday. So we're real excited about that. And of course, on Saturday, the 26th, the school district and the Baltimore Curriculum Project are having a ribbon cutting specifically for Frederick and a barbecue that afternoon. The status of the schools map, just showing that we're starting to get the Year 2 schools into pre-design. The first 4 schools are shown up there. We've got Fairmont Hartford, which actually selection for the design-build contractor happened last week. And these have to be approved by Board of Public Works. They're moving forward. Calvin Rodwell and Baybrook, the board approved them. They're moving through the rest of the process so that they can actually start the design process. We've got the design. Arlington is finishing up. Patterson and Claremont is moving to the conclusion of its work. And John Rura has gotten started in design. And of course, all of the schools in green either are moving within the first 4. We're moving 5 schools. Next summer, this time, we'll be moving 5 schools. And we'll be moving quite a few schools into swing space in preparation for construction in 2018 and 19. So next year, as we've said over and over again, is going to be our busiest year. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to have a couple of very big planning sessions in September with ourselves and then with MSA to determine exactly what has to be mobilized, how we're going to mobilize it from a capacity standpoint, and all of the different activities that are happening with those. The status school by school. Would you like me to go through them?
No.
Just
Okay.
a quick question. What does, so I understand the columns, what does last quarter and third quarter mean? I'm sorry, last quarter and this quarter?
Yeah, this quarter, it's just a comparison with the last time we came before you,
Oh.
where we were in terms of the status of the project
I got
and where
you.
we are now.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm. With regard to Patterson, the environmental study has been, the actual work has been completed. The additional borings and the soil samples have taken place along the borderline with the EPA work. All of that information is now at the analysts at the laboratories. We're working with MSA's construction manager to update them, and hopefully we'll have something in the next 2 weeks to report, and we'll start to prepare our community feedback session on them. Also, the contractor is providing their recommendations to MSA on how they think the site should be protected during the course of construction and afterward. So that's happening.
Real quickly, it's hard to imagine there's an upside to a site that's potentially contaminated. There are a lot of grants available through the federal and sometimes state government for sites that are contaminated or quote brownfield sites. So is that something that the city, the district has the capacity to explore potential federal or state grants to help with remediation of sites?
Well, I guess we haven't looked into it because it's been our understanding that most of the state and federal grants for that under the Superfund program have already gone into place. If we have to do something specifically on our site, then we're going to have to look into, those items. I think that the decision that will come before the board will be an issue of timing, how bad it is, if we can still stay on schedule, what the implications are for the project itself, and then to determine, what remediation, what other efforts are out there that we could implore.
Yeah, just in my past life, there are a lot of sources that are still available. It's hard to imagine in today's fiscal constraints, but there are specific programs that are made available on an annual basis for projects that are considered brownfield. So, it might be worth half an hour sort of looking into or talking to someone who knows more about those sources than somebody else does.
Absolutely will. If you have anything that you want to recommend,
Yeah, I will.
let me know.
Thanks.
Great. And on the Year 2 schools, want to talk about the Year 2 schools kind of quickly?
Sure. We're in the process of starting some of the design for the Year 2 schools. So for, as we said before, John Rura, Calvin Rodwell, and Baybrook are in those beginning stages of design and getting ready to really start doing the heavy lifting and work there for that. We have Fairmont, Hartford, and Reach, which is what we're calling the alternative delivery method. The selection process for the initial phase of that has completed, and so they'll be beginning work on design for that as well. The Calverton project right now is on hold, waiting decision for whether or not we're going to adjust grade bands with Calverton and Mosher based on the new information we have about enrollment in the area. So as soon as we have some final decisions on that will pick up and move forward, but that feasibility study is largely complete. Walter P. Carter and Lois T. Murray were in the process of pulling together all of the EAP documents, and that should be coming before the board very shortly. The Hartford Heights also is in that stage of EAP development. Mary E. Rodman will be presenting to you today. Highlandtown and Commodore John Rogers are awaiting procurement from MSA to move forward. Govins and Medfield are in the EAP development stage, and they'll stay there until the projects that are of higher priority have been approved and are moving. Northwood, Cross Country, Montebello are all in the process of the feasibility study. So for Cross Country, we've received back some of the additional information to kind of finalize that work. For Northwood, they're doing the existing condition surveys right now. Montebello, they're at about 50%. We have some questions that we're still wrapping up there to be able to move that forward. And Robert Coleman and James Mosher were recently approved, so they'll be starting their feasibility study soon.
Any red flags? Anything you want to flag for us that we should be aware of?
I think that as a body of work, it is important to note that the Year 2 schools are all going to be on an accelerated schedule. MSA got started with the procurements quite late, almost 9 or 10 months late, and then with every single one, we've had, quite frankly, some type of political or other type of issue that we've had to help resolve with the community and others. And so for the first 3 schools, every single one of those procurements are requiring a design schedule that is markedly short, like 12 months, and a construction schedule that's 12 months. And we've had to be very critical. With MSA, we've worked with them to ensure that the companies that have been selected can, that they are up to the task. The Fairmont Hartford team actually is the team that did Green Street Academy. We're extremely excited about that because they did a superb job turning that school around in 9 months. And so they are the team that was selected for Fairmont Hartford. And if we can, work with the city to get them to pay attention to us when we have issues with land or land swaps or inspections, then we'll be okay. But they all are going to take a lot of paying attention to.
Very helpful. It just, as things come, let us know. the sooner we can all engage our political leaders, community leaders to help with things, the better. We don't want your team to be standing out there alone on this stuff.
Thank
So
you.
it's just good to know what's there.
Let me say one other thing. One other thing I want to say is that Nicole and I put together a series of city-related issues that they can help us with in terms of surrounding schools, and sent that to Dewana, and she's working with President Young and with Karen Stokes to put together a SWAT team, sort of, so to speak, within the city to help us.
Would it be possible for the board to see that? I would love to
Yeah,
see
Dewana
that.
has it. Yes, I'll make a note for her to send it to AJ.
You don't need to do that. AJ can do it.
Sure.
Take it off your list. It just would be useful to know. I just think as much as we can be aware of what our work with the city and who's helping who and what they're doing and what we need, just the better off we'll all be. So,
Great.
AJ, if you can make sure Dewana gets that to us, that would be great.
I would just add the other flags on the year 2 schools, particularly the schools that are closer to that bottom in the range of the 23 to 28. Is up until now, we've had a really robust engagement process. Year 2 was revamped based off of previous schools' feedback. We're at this phase now where it's on a cusp, right? We're in that 23 to 28, whether the school will get done, be completed based off of how many schools we actually complete. And so the engagement process for schools like Northwood, Montebello, Robert Coleman may look drastically different than some of the earlier schools, and so to manage expectations. So you may hear feedback or concerns from community that they're not being engaged the same way, or they're not being engaged properly, or we're not being as transparent. So this week and next week, we have meetings with the principals and the ILT teams for those particular schools to discuss how we should do engagement. Are we going to keep the exact same process, or are we going to change the process so that we can manage expectations?
Even when you're managing expectations, it's really going to be important to just let people know what's going on. Just be honest. We can take the blowback from people that say, you said this and then you said that. What we don't want to hear is, it's been X weeks, and X being a bigger number than it should be, since we heard from him. Keep people in the loop. Say more, not less, even if it's not something, you know what, you know how to do this. I don't want to lecture you, but you know what we don't want to hear at the board meeting. We don't want everybody staring at you saying you did a bad job. It's better to tell them something that I don't want to hear than to go radio silent on people.
All right. I'll say last few things. We should share with you the feedback that, the communication we just sent out to all stakeholders based off participant focus groups we did to get feedback on the engagement process and changes that we're making. And then for Walter B. Carter, I would expect that we're going to get a lot of pushback as that project continues to move forward because of the swimming pool, the rec center, and now the loading dock on the school. So I think that you all would probably hear a lot of concerns from the community at large about the project. We have a series of activities planned, but I think that they will not mitigate the community's concerns as much as we would hope. So I know we have a couple
Another one
minutes.
that needs to continue to, when they're engaging us, the city people need to be right there, because that's not just us. I mean, you know how I
It
feel
looks like
about
we have
that.
5 minutes, and
Makes me crazy.
normally we present a lot on community engagement, student focus groups. So for this particular presentation, we wanted to share some of the communication activities we have going on, particularly with our social media. And so you can see, I won't go through all of the slides, but you can see we have started using Facebook, Instagram, Twitter a lot for 21st century. This one particularly highlights our Facebook, one of the social medias that we've been using more. Instagram and Twitter, we're starting to use those as well. Followers have slowly increased from like 63 to 150. That was as of July. I know it's up more now. But you would also note that videos that include student activities, whether it's student interns like Mark, who was an intern at Fort Worthington, or Lego build activities that we did at Lyndhurst with students, get a lot of hits. Peak hours are at around 5 p.m., so in the evening, and the average the peak reach was 2,605, but the average view in June was 280. So we're starting to promote all things 21st century on all social media, and we will continue to present on all of those means, as well as the other things that we continue to do, emails, meetings, one-to-one meetings, and phone calls.
Commissioner Bondima has a question?
Yeah, I think this is a great idea. I was wondering, how do you get the message out to the community that you're using Facebook. I mean, it's good to see, because considering how many students we have in Baltimore City Public Schools, and the numbers here, it seems like we need to get additional messages, and maybe we need to go on the TV when we have those announcements to let people know, and on the radio, any radio shows that you generally connect with?
Mion actually has a couple of interviews scheduled this week, or did you do one today? I think one tomorrow morning and one today at 3 o'clock. I'll share with you a communication we just send out to everyone who's ever attended a meeting. Over the summer, we did live calls, we did door knocks, and we were trying to promote particularly our social media activity. And just encouraging people to follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. So every avenue that we can take, every time we're communicating, those sites are shared with individuals that we're communicating with, regardless of what the communication is. If it's a meeting, the PowerPoint slide ends with the social media outlets. If it's an email, those are included in an email. If we're doing one-to-one calls, we're asking people if they are active on social media and encouraging them to follow us.
One-to-one calls usually doesn't work. The people, once they hear who you are, click them, they just, I mean,
That
I
hasn't
do
been
it.
our experience, thankfully.
Huh?
That hasn't been our experience,
Well,
thankfully.
How many calls have you made?
I will provide the number of calls that we've made over the summer. I don't have those handy.
Because if you show how many calls you, and this is
It's
but not just
definitely in
you.
thousands.
It's in the
This is
range.
just about anybody. If it's not a cousin, aunt, or somebody calling, and they find out, it doesn't matter what it is. Usually, if they don't feel like talking, they hang up. Not that they don't care about you. It's just that it's just a habit that people have, especially if they think it's a telemarketer or whatever. They just, generally don't want to spend time.
Right, and I don't want to get too hung up on the one-on-one calls. That's one of the many things that we're doing to
The many
promote
things,
social
right.
media.
But I still, again, like you just said, recommend to get a regular time on a popular radio show that most people in the Baltimore community might be listening to, and they could do a news or a piece on how to reach out to Baltimore City Public Schools on Facebook or any other outlet that you have. Just a recommendation.
Will do.
Okay, thank you.
Then on the work-based learning, these are the results of the Urban Alliance group that is working with us to have interns on each of the projects, and that turned out being very successful in that we finished, we got started late. So we just wanted to give you some general information
How
on
many
that.
interns do you use?
We actually had
17.
13 that were placed. We had 17 enrolled in the program.
Okay.
We only had 13 that were able to be placed.
You
But
can check
coming up, we'll have about 22.
If you can check with me,
Yes.
because you can get a bunch of college students that would be happy to participate in doing that.
Well, it's
kind of
not
thing.
the students, it's making sure we can place them with the contract, the A&Es and the contractors of the
Okay.
program, and make sure they have something for them to do that's worthwhile and that meets their point. So it's not the number of students
Okay.
that want to work.
Okay.
It's
We're
also
good.
another piece of context. This is something that Board Chair Cooper really wanted to emphasize. As much as we are continuing to look at the jobs component of the overall construction project, what can we do to also provide employment and training opportunities for city school students? So that's why the emphasis was on the students.
Okay.
Just as another point of background.
Thank you.
See you next Wednesday.
We're good?
Yeah, good job.
Okay.
We have Mary Rodman now.
Yes.
So next up, same team, feasibility study for Mary Rodman.
Yes.
So we're presenting the option one, which was the staff recommendation for this project. So this here, just to give you a brief overview of the site, you have the building, the existing building, and also showing some minor additions that are going to be there on the right-hand side. There is a rec center on this site as well that will remain standing throughout the course of this work. It's that circular building there that's shown in the middle. The area to the left of that that's grayed out is an open field that is a rec and parks field. So this gives you a little bit of an overview of the existing footprint and also the additions that are being suggested as part of option one. So When the architects went and looked at the building, they really saw an opportunity to reuse the vast majority of the existing footprint in this option one, while adding an addition for community space, an addition for an admin area, and allowing for that secure vestibule to be built, as well as enclosing some space for a new media center area. And those are the ones that are outlined in purple there. So this is the proposed ground floor of option one. This area here is largely the younger students. It allows them to have direct access to the play area in the center of the building that is being proposed. Right now, it's just kind of a blacktop macadam. You'll see in later slides what the architects are envisioning as a play area for those younger students. They would have direct access from this floor. There's also the art programming here on the bottom level as well. The main floor, you can see that they've added that admin area and extended the building out on the left side of the auditorium to provide additional community space and a secure vestibule that would allow access into the admin area as well as that community space after hours if so desired. The floor plan remains largely the double-loaded corridor style of the existing footprint, and this floor has both first and second grade as well as your music, media center, dining, and gym, and the tech lab that is being added as an additional space in all of our 21st century programs. The top floor of the building has the remaining grades for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. It also has the science lab, and the addition for the admin on the floor also allows the student services space such as guidance, psychology, social work offices to be added there in that green area as well. So these are just some renderings to give you an idea of what the outside would look like and the difference, what the new addition spaces would look like from varying areas. The one on the top is the south elevation. You move down and you see the west elevation, and then the east elevation is actually a cross section, which is why it looks that way, and it allows you to see into that playground area that the architects are envisioning for the early learners on that ground floor. And if we go to the next slide, it shows you the front entrance. You can see the relationship to the rec center. It's that gray building on the left-hand side and the new entrance that they're building for the elementary school. Additional views of that front entrance area on top from basically right in front of the rec center, as well as an overview so you can see the play areas on the bottom. This is what the front entrance would look like from the street approaching the school, and gives you additional perspective. And this is that play area in the center. You can see in the middle 3D view that there is an entrance on ground level for the younger students, the pre-K and K students on that ground floor to be able to access it, as well as the new media center, which is that glass, the area with lots of windows there where the students would be able to come out.
Thanks. Just a couple of questions. Is this the first of the excuse my memory on this, of the feasibility studies that we've reviewed and approved, is this the first one that's substantially renovated versus new build?
I'd have to check to be sure. Most of the other we have other renovations, but
Yeah.
many of them are renovations and additions. So this is definitely the first instance in which the combined population would fit within the existing
All right,
footprint.
that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I'm a student at Mary Rodman, who's combining with Mary Rodman?
Sarah M. Roach.
If I'm a student at one of those two schools, and after this substantial renovation is complete, when I walk into the school, will I notice a difference?
So I think you're going to notice a difference in the types of spaces that are provided. So they're getting the tech lab, which is a brand new feature. They'll have a science lab that's set up to provide elementary science. They'll have a new media center. They will have, the whole building will have been renovated, so it will look and feel a little bit different. It'll probably get a little bit brighter, which is what we've seen in all of the other renovation
Okay.
areas we've done so far. The play area is a definite improvement because right now it's just a macadam area where students can play, whereas this will be an actual play area for those younger students.
What about the core systems? I'm noticing that on the other documents that are provided for each of the options, the advantages and the disadvantages. There's a substantial number of advantages to this option, and there's also a decent list of disadvantages. So the one that caught my eye was that the fewer opportunities to incorporate sustainable design features and practices compared to a new facility. Not so surprising. That's not surprising at all, actually. But what about the basics? I'm assuming that much of that has to do with the envelope itself because it's like the existing building. But maybe I shouldn't assume. Like, what are we given there? Like,
I'm going to let Cindy answer that because she's much more qualified.
Hi, Cindy Smith, Director of Design and Construction. So the whole building would get new systems, new windows, new roof, new HVAC, that's typical. You're right, as far as the existing skin, the roof, it does lead to not typically doing, like a solar roof or anything that's, geothermals wouldn't be, considered for something like this.
but you just said that it would get the new HVAC, you said new roof.
New roofing.
But if it's getting new roofing, that, to me, would imply that it's going to, like the other roofs on the new buildings, it'll be solar-ready. But you're saying it's not?
We could make it solar-ready, but no, we wouldn't put the panels up there for something like
But
this.
that's true
at
on
this
a lot of
stage.
the,
That's correct, yes.
so you're at least going to make it solar-ready, I hope. If we're spending $27 million on a school, I get that we have some give, I mean, I don't want to be sort of a single-issue advocate on these buildings, but if we're going to spend $27 million, I get that we can't put the solar panels on, and I get the price differential for building a new building. The pros and cons for all the options are a decently long list, but it would seem like a wasted opportunity if we're going to put new roofing on to make it solar-ready.
We'll look at the solar-ready issues, because
Yeah, I
they're
mean,
not simple.
I have assumed, based on past questions, that's why I asked if this was the first one of these kind that we're looking at. I have assumed, based on when I've asked this question before, maybe in a different way, when the answer came back, they're going to be solar-ready, I'm assuming that they're all going to be solar-ready. I would like for them to all be solar-ready, if possible.
We will let you know
stop
exactly
harping
what
on it
we've
now.
done on that issue.
Great. Great, thank you.
And I think, as you said, looking at the list of disadvantages, that's a relative term as to what, like you said, what the environmental issues that we could not accomplish. It's not the same level of list that we would have done if we were doing a new building, but it's still pretty substantial.
Yeah, and when you look at the preferred option for the community, well, of course, given an option of a new building, you'd probably raise your hand for that. That's why I wanted to make sure, because we haven't seen one exactly like this, and from the very beginning, we were told that these renovations are going to be so substantial, it'll be almost like getting a new building.
Correct.
Okay.
It'll look pretty new. It's going to have a very great makeover. The issue with the rec center is an important one, too, because that's a historically significant, I think the first African-American architect to design a rec center in Baltimore. We were asked by the delegates to keep it, so they're going to have to come up with some money to help renovate it, but it's part of the campus that we're going to be looking at.
And is that an option in other places? That if somebody can come up with some additional money, we can save some rec
Now, the
centers?
city's going to have to come
Yeah.
up with additional funds.
Is that the issue at Walter P. Carter?
So it is dependent on the site. So in this
Okay.
particular instance, because the student population will fit within the existing footprint, we didn't have some of the other site constraints
Right.
and pressures that we do at Walter P. Carter as an example. So it really is dependent on the layout of the site, what the size of the school is going to be when we're complete, and the location of the two buildings.
And the rec center
other.
there is structurally sound. In Walter P. Carter, the rec center is not structurally
okay.
sound. There's a huge difference in the considerations that we were making there.
I don't want to take us down that rabbit
That's
hole now.
okay.
I know we're going to, at some point, together have a chance to talk about that with other people, so.
Yep.
Because we're going to hear from people again and again about that, so we'll leave it, let's let it go right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, terrific. Again, just like the other presentation, as there's, we will recommend, based on I don't think there's any other questions, we'll recommend to the full board that we approve the feasibility study, and just keep us posted on.
Thank you.
So next up is the school readiness plan.
If you don't mind, I will do this one.
Do not mind.
And our first slide, just give you operations at a glance, the different divisions or departments, however you frame it, for operations. This is just sort of like a spreadsheet of our school readiness Blitz process in terms of the principals signing off and providing a list of items that need to be handled, and that passing over to the area facility managers, who then give it to the technicians, the lead techs that we've just created. Then we get back to the principal to sign off on the work, and the work is completed. This is just a glance at our repair shop under facility maintenance, which Blaine leads. It's an example of some of the summer projects that we're working on throughout the system during the summer, and this is an annual event for us. So it's a lot of different things that in the last quarter of the school year sort of happen in the schools, and then we've got to immediately start working on them to have the schools ready for the fall.
We see I can't remember how often we see it, the incidents report. The board sees that, and I'm always surprised at the amount of vandalism. It's a little shocking, actually. Something I think you guys are I don't know, suffering in silence. Most people don't hear about that. I think we need to maybe talk about that a little bit more and sort of understand, what the community might think. I mean, there's something there that we shouldn't just be, we need to repair them, but there's something there that's deeper than just reading an incidents report. But so I'm wondering, do they just get added to the list? Like, this is the stuff you have to do to open the schools, but if while you're, clicking through all these things that doors and hardware, flooring, lighting, and then 3 break-ins happen,
Well,
what do you do?
fortunately for the summer, we get our new money, July 1. So it enables us to concentrate on some of these issues. In terms of the vandalism, it is a problem for us because the numbers have increased, I would say exponentially, since I've gotten here. We are well over $250,000 a year just because of vandalism in the schools and because of the break-ins that happen. Most of these things get taken care of. Sometimes because of the vandalism, when they break in the school and really destroy it, depends on the cost, because we can go to risk management and they will reimburse us after we pay a $5,000.
Okay, so we have insurance on the vandalism
Yes,
one,
ma'am.
so it doesn't really come out of our core maintenance budget.
It depends on how much
Yeah.
and what type of vandalism, but it's sort of like a shared responsibility.
I want to flag this. I don't know what we're flagging it for, but I want to have the board needs to have a presentation from Keith and his team so that we can, it might be worthy of some kind of a community forum. What's going on? What can we do? What are the kids trying to tell us? If it's increasing exponentially, I know that's a relative term of art, we should really, it's not just your issue. There's something else going on here, and we should really, it should go beyond you in terms of the level of dialogue we have. I mean, we want to do more restorative practice. Is there some pattern here? Is it the same schools? We don't need to go into it now, but I want to flag it for something that we want to talk about a little bit more. And it should include the community, the engagement staff. We should figure out the right forum to have a discussion about this.
We have had some preliminary discussions with the engagement staff with 21st Century, because we want to make sure that we can protect and take care of the new buildings that are coming out. So and with the chief of staff. So there are a number of discussions that we've already begun to try to, get a hold on the vandalism criticism that
So
you've
I'm
heard.
assuming those are internal, which is good. You got to start
Yes.
somewhere, but I think this is a broader conversation. I
Right.
start with the assumption that kids or humans don't necessarily want to do bad things. There's something going on there, and I just want to give us a chance to understand it more. Commissioner Bondima has a question, then
No,
Commissioner
I have a
Frank.
question, a comment, a recommendation, because many times when you do the work at the school, sometimes it's said that you don't do the complete job or whatever happens. I really, and you probably already do this, I highly recommend that when you go into a school and it's some severe damage or a lot of work that has been done, to take photos. And do you take photos?
Yes, we do.
Because before and after, so that we, at the public can see the work that you've done, and then at some point when it's been destroyed, or you have to go back in there, you can always say, this is where it was before, this is what we've done, with a date, because
Yes.
many times when the principal or whoever reports that it's an issue, you put a date on it, and this is old news, I'm sure you do this all the time, but sometimes we forget and document it in the way it should be documented. Okay, I think it's recommended that you do that, because I've gone into some schools and it's some severe damage, and then later on, the work has been done. So we need to know how many, but sometimes you have to go 2 or 3 times to make sure it's accomplished. But I just recommend it for you.
Well, I thank you for that. I know we do take the pictures before. I'm not going to say that we take the pictures after, but that's something that we can look to doing
Right.
to
After is critical,
improve the
especially,
process.
especially if you're putting a date on it. You went in this date, and this is what was done, and later on, the damage was done again, especially in those bathrooms and all.
It's part of the story. If we're going to
Okay.
try to dig deeper into this, people really need to know that the system's being responsive, but that we're reaching out for help from the community and what else we can do.
Okay.
Commissioner Frank?
Yeah, it sort of warms my heart that you guys have on your list removing wild growth from fence lines, which is great. It's sweating the small stuff. But I have to ask whether or not we're overpromising, in the sense that we know that we're underfunded as a district. We know we're underfunded academically. I imagine you're underfunded, and I imagine that you're underfunded relative to other districts around the state in terms of the capacity they have to do these things for the schools. So it seems like what you're presenting is that you have the capacity to respond to every request, to take the time to remove weeds along fence lines, but it's hard to imagine, given where we are fiscally, that you can almost respond to every request as you have in the first, you said in the first slide, we solve it. I'm sorry, I apologize. In the first slide, you said, here's the process, and we abate the request. So where are we? Are we actually are we able to deliver 100% of what we want to because we have the capacity financially to do so, or are we woefully underfunded to provide the level of service that we should be, or what you would want to be providing to our schools?
I would say that we are, I'm not going to say woefully, but we're fairly underfunded. We do understand that everyone in the district has had to, take cuts, but, out of the last 10 years, we've had budget cuts, 9 of those 10. So it does make it very difficult. However, we do have a very good staff. We still have, as you were talking about the fence lines, under previous CEOs, I've had some very difficult conversations about weeds in the cracks and the wild growth along the fence line, so we do our best to cut that down, and that's been something we've done every year. We've not eased up on. The larger ticket items, they can be an issue in terms of repair or replacement, and some of those items do wait because they're not an emergency. It's not a safety issue. It could be considered more cosmetic.
I would just suggest that, this is a presentation to the board, it's a presentation to the public. There's nothing in here about what we can't do because of our budget constraints. You're presenting it as if almost we can do everything that we need to do. And I think that's setting yourself up for failure in the sense that you're not going to be able to deliver because we are underfunded. And I think relative to where Baltimore County is and Howard County, I imagine they have 2 or 3 or 4 times the staff you have and the resources you have, and their buildings are not as old. So you're not presenting the challenges that we have as a district. And I think it would be important for the public and for the board to know that, as well as what you can do and what you are doing with limited resources that we have.
Well, I really appreciate your comments. I do agree with them. I would only say that in the context of the discussion today, we're only talking about school readiness, and as I've said, this is right after we get our new money for the fiscal year. We do have an ability to do more. Where we have problems is, once we get to February, March, the funds are so limited because we're underfunded that we're not able to do things, and things will kind of wait until the new fiscal year comes in. But we're still not able to get everything because we just don't have the money. And the more you do in the beginning of the year, the less you can do near the end of the year.
Commissioner Bondima has a question.
And it's going to be real
Is it-
quick. I didn't know if you listed as far as priority is concerned, but move the fire extinguishers all the way up to the top of the list, because that's a critical process, or critical whatever,
All right, well, this is the repair shop, but
whatever. I didn't know how it was listed,
yes, ma'am.
if it was according to priority.
That is a priority.
That is a huge priority.
right.
Okay, thanks.
So let's try to, we have a lot to get through here, so let's keep moving.
Okay, in the next, under the ground shop, you'll see fire extinguishers now. I will make sure that it'll move to the top of the list, but the ground shop handles all of the fire extinguishers. This is just a snapshot of the work orders that have been done at 150 schools for the repair shop, and our AFM teams, 133 locations.
What does
So
that mean, AFM?
Our area facility managers. The area facility managers have the lead techs and the technicians under them. The repair shop has sort of like a potpourri of different repair specialties, and they have to go and handle various issues that the techs don't handle.
One other favor that I asked
Yes.
for every division and every department, when you do your acronyms, do me a favor for a while, just write
Spell
out
them
what
out.
they, yeah, because there's so many of them, and
Yes.
it'll save us a whole lot of time asking you these questions.
I spent a lot of
I
time
say
last
that to
night.
the academic team all the time.
Yeah, I tried,
Yeah.
like the Dickens last night, to figure out what that meant.
Yeah.
Finally gave up.
It's real minor, but it
Not
saves
minor.
time.
No idea what they were talking about.
Okay. Contract maintenance. Contract maintenance handles minor capital repair requests, so they monitor contractors as they're performing work throughout the schools, and this shows you a list of the items that they've been handling, and they're very important, very difficult issues that have to be resolved. They do a tremendous amount of work. Our design and construction, headed by Cindy Smith, shows you the construction projects that we've had throughout the course of the summer, not expecting to be all to be completed before the start of school, but of course we will have, for instance, our 7 air conditioning projects. We expect at least 6, maybe 7, to at least be functional by the beginning of school, and then there's still some more work to kind of tidy things up as the school year goes on. And the number of design projects, so it shows that they have a significant number of projects that they're working on with a very small staff, particularly compared to the other jurisdictions, but they get a lot of work done.
And will those be completed during the school year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we
Most
could
of
have
the
20 air conditioning projects that over the course of the year will come online.
Well, 7 that are under construction, 13 that are under design. Once the design is done, then they go into construction after we,
So
put a...
possibly during the year.
Right. But we try to expedite those projects to get them done. MTA just shows you the new fare program. I think we'll talk a little more about that with transportation, but as you can see, ride times have been increased from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. instead of 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. The number of trips they can take 4 per day instead of 2, and only need 1 trip per ticket. And the length of the trips, 120 minutes versus the 90 minutes that we had last year. School readiness under transportation. Basically, we just try to make sure that all of the students are assigned a route that are eligible all of the students are in the transportation system, and we try to make sure either through yellow buses or cabs that those students are picked up. The rollover, this is an old slide. We have increased our numbers, but we're working very hard with the schools. There are some schools that still have not verified all of their students, and we are pushing them to get the principals to complete that process so that we can move forward. And I know we have Amanda in the audience. Amanda Ellison has been incredible every year in helping us to get the principals to comply and get that information in so that we can route those students. Just some more numbers, basically, showing we're about 77% complete in terms of the verification. But we are moving forward, and we'll be talking to Amanda soon. This is just a timeline in terms of letters going out, the inspections that we do for the buses, the routing, when we try to complete the routing, letters that go to parents, training of the bus drivers and aides that have to be certified, have background checks conducted, customer service calls that go out, and getting the schools to identify transportation coordinators, which are extremely important in terms of getting the information on kids getting to school, what time they get to school, because timeliness is a big issue.
Can we assume that, given the incident that happened with the contractor last year, that if there was a glitch or a timing issue in the background checks, all that stuff that we would do with contractors, have we tightened that up so that we don't have that issue again?
We've tightened up a number of procedures, but the background check was not an issue with that driver.
Yeah, that's, sorry, I didn't mean to imply that.
You know, when his license was suspended, we did not know until the day after the accident. A lot of that kind of has been glossed over, but it would have been significant for us. He would not have been driving. But there are still reporting issues on our part that we had to tighten up. We've been doing that, and we believe we have a much better system now.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Contractor readiness, this just shows all of the aides and drivers that we have who are coming in for their certifications in service or pre-service.
So at least at this stage, we have confidence that the people who are driving, so going into the year, everybody's been checked
Yes,
and up to date.
yes.
Okay.
I think we still have classes that are ongoing. Okay.
Question, how often do you recheck? I mean, is it once a year or a certain
I
amount of
believe
time?
it's twice a year.
Twice a
twice.
year?
Introduce yourself.
Jacinta Hughes, Director of Transportation. It's an annual certification, but part of our procedures, we've implemented that we check our records ourselves at least every 3 to 4 months, so we're touching each file. But as far as COMAR, what we guided by is an annual recertification for the drivers and aides.
Thank
Great,
you.
Thanks.
This shows the swing space buses for 21st century while the schools are being built. I believe these numbers are half of what they were last year in terms of the routes. We had 26 or 21, but not as many schools at this particular point. But of course, those numbers will certainly
Vary.
grow and fall back. Baltimore Link. This is the effort with the MTA to try to inform as much as possible about the new Baltimore Link and what stops they have and how long it's going to take. So this is a lot of the work that John Land has done along with MTA, as well as with our communications group. They've been working extensively with getting information out and putting information on the websites. And then the post-launch, this is work that's been going on this summer with respect to MTA. They've had MTA Transportation Tuesdays, and they've been going to these schools, Edmondson and Hartford Heights, in order to inform people who come up and need information on their MTA location and stops.
Good.
Our readiness for health and safety in terms of the issues that we're looking at in terms of emergency preparedness, asbestos abatement, bottled water distribution, and so on and so forth.
Are the new water systems installed?
We are still in the pilot phase. They've been installed in the 2 schools, only 1 in this building, but as we finish, I believe we have 1 other school we're finishing up, then they'll come here and we will put the remaining fountains in headquarters. And then
You're gonna
as
have
we monitor things,
Water bottle fillers?
yes.
Great.
In fact, the one installed right outside of this room has a water
So good,
bottle
so we
filler.
can, so as soon as we've tested it, then these shouldn't appear at any more meetings. People should either be encouraged to bring their own, or a pitcher and some glasses should appear in this, seriously, that should change all this craziness. And we should see our our plastic water bottle purchase budget go for central office. Yeah,
We even have a picture of AJ filling a water bottle.
beautiful, as he drinks it right now, that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing, just checking.
And of course, I think one of the very important things, we do a water quality sampling of all of the schools that have filtration systems to make sure that those filtration, beg your pardon?
Who does it?
We have contractors who work with our health and safety office who they are certified to conduct the sampling.
Okay.
I can get you their names if you,
Yeah, I would be very interested,
okay.
because the city has a really excellent program as well. I mean, their department is good. Yeah.
Well, we work with the health department
Is that right?
because we provide the information to them.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay,
So good luck with the opening.
thank you.
It's a lot of, it's obvious how much work this is.
Mhm.
So, on the procurement, I'm going to ask Commissioners Bondima and Frank if they have any questions on the items. I only have one comment, so I'll defer to see if, because we're not going to go through them one by one, other than to answer some questions. Commissioner Frank?
No, I don't.
Commissioner Bondima? The only comment I have then is on the Maryland, let me just get it up here, the computer thing. I assume what you mean by this, it's pretty well written, so I assume that what you mean by this is that we had money, we approved something on June 13th, we had it budgeted, we were all set to go, and then we had the power outage, and so we had unexpected expenses of approximately $300,000, and so we had to ask for an increase. Is that what we're reading here?
Good morning. Yes, Ken Thompson, CIO. Absolutely correct,
Okay.
Commissioner.
So then I think, at the time this was presented in June, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Commissioner Bondima asked if we could see a distribution of the computers over the system that have been purchased. We understood from the presentation at the time that we buy them centrally so that we have them, but schools pay for them out of their budgets, and so the response to the question at the time was, fair student funding, people have money, they buy their own things. Fair answer. I think as we look at, take a harder, clear-eyed look at equity issues, I think we still would like to see, if this has already been answered and I missed it, I apologize, but I think we still want to see, at this stage of the game, what is the distribution of technology in our schools? We don't need a primer on fair student funding. We got it. But I think it was a good equity question. So I just want to, this made me remember that question, and if you don't mind.
And the good thing is, Commissioner, we just finished our annual technology inventory. At least we're finishing it this month. So and I think I'm coming to the board for an update in September, October. I need to verify the date, but I can bring those numbers to you then.
That's great, because I think one of the things, I mean, Dr. Santelises can manage her staff how she wants, but it would be, I think, useful for all of us if, as you do the inventory, as people are making their school-based decisions, if the technology team might be able to flag, you know, there's, of the 180-odd schools, there's 7 that haven't had a new computer in 7 years, something, just some way for people to understand that there could be pockets of inequities as it relates to access to technology.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
I don't have any other questions on the procurement.
Let me, all of a sudden, I had this question way back.
Yeah, June
Where we
13th.
were talking about the openings of the schools, and that was my question is, when we talked about the technology that was going into the schools, were you prepared to get them in there? I mean, when will they arrive?
We received the equipment 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
It's in our warehouse. We started issuing the devices to the teachers at Fort Worthington this week.
Okay.
The remainder of the devices will be pushed out probably the first of next week. But it is a phased-in approach. We didn't want it in the boxes. We wanted it configured on the network. We have the infrastructure up and running, the wireless. But we have it on hand. We just have a planned distribution for it.
Because my fear is that, and anything could happen in the process. My fear is that sometimes you get the technology at the school and it's not set up.
Right.
You hear the stories where we got all these computers in the school and they're just sitting there.
Right.
It would be very, very important to me, and I'm sure the board, that we know not only are they there, once they arrive, you have people to go in and set them up. And then you're going to have to deal with working with some of the staff to teach them, which they really should know, teach them how to use it and introduce it to the students. So I had
Absolutely.
that question way back when we were talking about opening.
And also additionally, as another point of interest especially for Fort Worthington and Frederick, at least for next year, because we're distributing, and because of the professional development, the importance of ensuring that they're working, we're assigning a full-time tech for both locations, which will be there for the sole purpose, which you just pointed out, for the professional development, to ensure that they're operational, to make sure that it's full.
So each time you deliver, you'll have a tech to come over.
We will have a tech there to deliver, but throughout the year,
Okay.
day to day, every day, it will be a
Oh,
tech in the
okay.
building to maintain that environment.
On site every day.
For the
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
new buildings.
okay.
Yeah, the systems
Thank
are
you.
going to be new. That's a good
Yes.
idea.
And yes, and that's what we did. It was a model we used for the other 2 schools. We did 1-to-1, and it worked well, so we decided to roll it out in these environments as well.
Is that a new job position?
No, ma'am. I'm just reassigning existing resources.
Okay, thank you.
So we don't have any other,
Hi, I'm sorry. Joe Strake, Board Liaison. So the question regarding the equity of distribution of computers and technology is scheduled for an update to this committee meeting in January. There's also a Blackboard update in September, so if you'd like that update earlier, I could talk with Dr. Thompson to see if he could provide that earlier, since he said that they were doing the cataloging now. But as it stands right now, it's scheduled for January at this meeting.
that's fine.
Okay.
I just didn't want to lose, this just reminded me of the question. I didn't want to lose the question. I'm assuming there's a reason for that schedule. We don't have any reason to alter that. But
Okay.
thanks for that. Terrific. The next meeting of the Operations Committee is, I believe, September 19th
That's correct.
in this room. And with that, we are officially adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
11:25. Good job, everybody.
As soon as I saw that, I remembered your question. And do you guys read I don't always get to them, but that daily news clip